Okay, we're at day 2. We've left the place in Isoden and we're out just looking about for the property that we are going to view tomorrow, just seeing what's in the neighborhood. And then we run across the property that I absolutely loved, which was we call it the 350 roof because it had a brand new roof. And it still has the for sale sign, but they told me right before we got in our chance to leave that it had been put under contract and probably sold. So disappointing, but we absolutely love the area, absolutely love the look of the chateau. I guess I can only pray that it falls through. Maybe, I don't know, we'll have to see, but I'll see if I can give you a sneak peek. So here's one of the gates that obviously everything is locked up. But if you look down there, that's a way through to one of the courtyards. And the whole property is covered all the way on the outside with big gates and big fences, big walls, but it's got gorgeous trees everywhere. And this cute church right next door. Church is closed, but it also has a cute little cemetery. So now I'm just walking to the back side, and this is the part that was really, really old, this back area. Lots of information about this property going back to the Knights of the Templar. Here's a cute little cemetery back here, and then the property goes back for quite I think it was like maybe 12 acres, 13 acres. They used to have a really formal garden here, which was gorgeous. And it's been pretty much neglected and looks horrible at this point. Would take a lot of work. If you can see, here's part of the old outbuildings. Just another view of the cemetery and the cute little church next door. There is a freeway fairly close to here, so you can hear some distant noise from a freeway. Nothing we're totally not used to since we live in Utah. Everything's close to a freeway. But you can tell the foliage is absolutely gorgeous, like to die for foliage. There was a truck parked in the entrance to the main gates, and I tried to see if I could see anybody here. I don't know who it might belong to, but rumor has it, or we found online, that this was purchased by 2 people from France who actually go in and buy properties, restore the things that are making it to be uninhabitable. Like the roof was an issue on this house, and they replaced the roof, which is why we call it the 350 roof, because they spent $350,000 replacing the roof. Yeah, just another little area that you can view from, of course, my height, 5 feet tall. Maybe if I was 7 feet tall, I could see and everything, but you can tell it's a huge property and it is gorgeous. Something to die for. Right on the corner of the property is the statue, or the town or village remembrance to the soldiers who died in both World War I and World War II, which is fairly typical for all of France. Every little village has one of these dedicated to their sons that were lost in battle. This is the property right across the street from it. The hydrangeas in this area are fantastic. They're gorgeous. They're huge, and you can tell they require almost no work to get them to this size. It's also right across the street from the mari, and every little village or town has a mari, and usually their buildings are pretty gorgeous. As you can tell, this one here is not super ornate, but for a town hall compared to the United States, it's fairly spectacular. This is the front view of that church. And as we come around the corner, you'll see Lovey sitting in the car waiting patiently for me because he's always too embarrassed thinking we're going to be arrested for looking around. I try to convince him that this whole country is based on looking around. They want people to come here, but he'd rather look at it via satellite from the phone. We've stopped at the overlook to look at the Abbey de Noyac, and Lovey is looking at it from his satellite, his preferred way of viewing most things. But this is what the countryside around it looks like, which is about maybe 10 minutes from that chateau I was just at, the 350 roof. You can hear tons of birds even with the windows up while you're driving. We're right next to a major road, so it's kind of noisy here. Love the countryside though in France. Okay, we've arrived at the Abbey de Noyac for a little tour. I've convinced Lovey to put down the satellite on the phone so we could view it in person. We're now inside the inner court of the Abbey, which is absolutely gorgeous.
Hi.
And there's Bert. Where did Ernie go? It only goes to prove you can buy an Abbey. They said this one is owned by the department, not privately owned. But since we were looking at the Abbey up in Neufmensel, I thought it would be fun to come and see what the Abbeys looked like. We just came from the pantry, which was humongous, but it's dimly lit and I don't have an extra light. I've gone down to the end of the walkway so you can get a view of the courtyard or of the walking indoor courtyard, which this goes all the way around the four sides, so the brothers, the monks, could go from one area of the Abbey to the other without having to get out into the weather, especially since they had to be there like 3 in the morning for prayer. This is called the Chapter House. Terrell, does it give us any information about the Chapter House? So this is where they ran the business of the monastery. So probably the senior monks came in here, counted up their money, figured out how much money they needed, or how much food they needed to feed the monastery. Again, you can see the high ceilings with the carving and the dome pillars. That's what I love about these buildings. So much decorative architecture. It kind of puts the churches in the United States to shame, especially those in Utah. If anyone's ever been to them, plain Jane's. It's almost as though they were painted at one time. You can see some of the red, and then if you look slightly to the right, in some of the crevices, there's a darker, almost an amber dark red orange color. Obviously the green is moss because it's damp in here, and then each of the tops of these pillars have different decorative designs. I'll show you. Here's one side with a fairly simple design, and if I can get close enough that you can see without the glare. Each of these pillars have a totally different design. One has leaves like maple leaves maybe, and then the next one has the rose. And then this last one looks like acorn leaves. The amount of work and time they've put into these old buildings. And now they can put together a church or a temple in Utah in just a few short months. It's amazing. That's why there's no detail. You can almost hear the birds echoing in here. So this area is called the Parlor. We're not sure what the purpose of this was, but it almost looks as though it was like a holding area for meetings or what have you. And then again, on some of the walls, it appears that there was some painting. I see more red. From this angle of the courtyard we seen earlier, you can see the gorgeous carvings in the stone. It's sort of outlined right now by the moss, but it gives it a little more character and definition. Just kind of shows you what nature helps, although sometimes hurts.
Maybe did domestic chores or could also have served as a writing room.
So Charles said, if you couldn't hear, this was considered the monks' room where they did some of their chores. Probably things like writing, stuff that would require them to be indoors, as most of them probably worked outside most of the time, tending to the gardens and to the stuff to keep them fed. I'm not sure these tile floors in here are original because they're fairly new appearing. Here's the fireplace with some examples of the monks' habits. I'm assuming that's what they call them, their dress. So the
This is just the area before it.
monks' chore room then leads into the refectory. You can see the timbered roof in here. A set of stairs back out to the courtyard. It's a beautiful building though. See the stained glass window in that little alcove there. And then this, I'm not sure. I'm guessing it may have opened up. It does have hinges. Must have opened up at one point. takes us into the room where they ate, we think. The guide says that they ate around the edges of the room, maybe sitting on these little steps. Maybe had tables, wooden tables in front of them. But I guess that way you could face each other. But look at the windows. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Lovey. Well, you just think from the 12th century, if I were to order a window now, the cost for something like that would be probably in the tens of thousands. Those poor little monks made it for much cheaper. Kind of puts our dining room to shame at home. No, the carpet's not original. Interestingly noted, this little stairway that goes up on the one side of the room takes you to a landing, which kind of looks like whoever the dude in charge, the monk in charge, could sit up there and watch and make sure nobody was eating like an animal. I don't know. It's just kind of bizarre. The whole thing just doesn't make a lot of sense to us now. Charles found information that said these benches were covered with the big wooden, well, I guess a big wooden bench, or these concrete walls right here. And then they had paneling behind it so that it would be insulated, so that it wouldn't be so cold for them. But there was really never any heat in most of these buildings. And I'm sure they had quite the draft up their skirts. Now we can go into the courtyard more so you can see a first-hand glimpse of the courtyard rather than looking through one of those little windows. I love the roses that climb all over the walls in France. Of course, my yard in Utah has something like that, and I cut it down constantly because it's in my way to weed. But it doesn't really climb up anything pretty. It climbs up a rock wall and into more flowers. Some purple delphiniums. And it's fun to find some of the same plants we have in our gardens at home. We have these, and I have these right next to the garage, or by the patio next to the big garage out in the spot where we eat, our barbecue area. There's no watering system here either. Most of the plants rely on a little bit of rain that comes, and it does rain, I think, several times a week at least. Well, found the watering system. Okay, we're headed up to the dormitory, probably where the monks slept. Another little alcove. Oh, this gets up those stairs that we saw from the inside. of our favorite things to do is to find the areas that are worn on the stairs. You can see where the people have gone up that stair for hundreds of years, worn it down. These stairs have been here a few years. Kind of creaky. Apparently all the monks' dormitories are private. They didn't want us to see any monkly business going on. That's a long corridor with lots of private rooms on the sides. And on the other side, this is probably where they put candles, wouldn't you think? Or maybe the baby monks slept there. The midget monks. Ooh, pretty. Let's see. This is one of the dormitories. I'm guessing he was more than a monk. Or a basic monk. What would you call your junior monks? That little, a monkey. That door over on the far side probably goes into some kind of bathroom. The windows, stained glass windows in them. You really can't probably tell. Probably too dark in here. This one allows you to actually walk inside. And that's the French architecture we love. All the molding. Cool grate in the back of the fireplace. They put their beds in these little alcoves. And then this must be their wardrobe. A walk-in closet for a monk. And then this leads to the kind of like that room I showed on the other side, which I thought was the bathroom. And now it just has a little landing with a window. But I'm betting at some point on the floor right there was a hole and you just did your business and it fell out the side. But I mean, all the stuff I always read about monks, they didn't have quite such a fancy dormitory. Some big linen closets, I'm sure. I mean, you really could live in a place like this. Look at the wear on the floor from the hundreds of times that window is, the door's been open to that Juliet balcony, overlooking the park area out there. All of the dormitories are basically the same, but fairly ornate, aren't they, babe?
Yeah.
Here's a view out one of the windows in the dormitories. I'm not sure what the big tent's out there for, but all the Shasta daisies down there. I mean, I could wake up looking at that. I think I see a cemetery over there on the other side. Not sure. The windows are really cool. They're the old. Did you see this trail, the glass?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with the big bubbles in it and stuff still. Imperfections. People pay tons of money for that now. We've now stumbled upon a concert, a monk concert. We were interrupted in the concert by a group of other people who obviously needed to come to the concert. So we moved on. We're now at the promenade deck above the courtyard. I mean, like, I could totally see us buying a place like this and filling this with flowers and big citrus trees. Right, Lovey? We could fill this courtyard with citrus trees from the orangery. This is an aerial view of the courtyard. No matter which way you look at this courtyard, it's pretty gorgeous. I'm gonna see if Lovey could make me one when we get home. Or maybe better yet, maybe I'll buy my own courtyard here. So this Abbey was deeded or ceded? What did you say?
Ceded to the state.
Ceded to the state in 1909. And they've been restoring it for over 100 years, and they've done a really good job. I love the well in the middle of the courtyard. If a property like this came available on the market, I would snatch it up. I love the big open spaces, which is not common with the old chateaus. But if you buy an Abbey, look at the big open areas. This building is the reception and gift area, but I mean, it's been there for a long time, so it makes you wonder if it wasn't some kind of had some other purpose. So this is the area. When we first come in, we weren't able to video because there was a tour group there, but they're doing a lot of restoration on this edge, and you can see the buttress at that one end over there. Look, I love buttresses. They look so ancient but ornate. And then if you look at those gates over there, I mean, I could totally see this as our chateau.